Hey, good morning. Welcome, everybody. I'm Cameron Corder. Welcome to another episode of the Quarantine Leadership Series. We got a special one for you today. Mark Pritchett is soon to be starting in September of 2022. Mark will be the CEO of the Goldsboro Y. For the last 7 years, Mark has been a branch executive for me at the Dover Foundation YMCA branch. Just a phenomenal leader, great friend, and really proud of what he's doing. But we want to make sure Mark is prepared and understands what he's getting himself into. So I've asked a couple of other friends to say, what advice would you give to a new CEO, especially moving from branch exec to the CEO position? So I've asked Rich Gallagher and Mark Johnson to do that. So Rich, introduce yourself, tell where you're at and a little bit of your background.
Sure. So I am in Georgia at YMCA, the Georgia Sun Belt. And so I started my career at the age of 15 at the Shades Valley YMCA in Birmingham. So now I'm 52, so I've been doing it a while, but yeah, so from lifeguard to CEO in my journey, but have been with 7 different associations. And so glad to be on the Zoom call today with you guys.
How about you, Mark?
I am with YMCA Virginia's Blue Ridge out in Western Virginia, near Roanoke. And let's see, I started my career. I'd never been in a YMCA until I graduated college, and I started as an assistant youth sports director 27 years ago, and with a Y legend and a wonderful mentor, Steve Jester. And then I've been in Virginia my whole life. I've been at 3 Ys, and came to Roanoke in 2004, and then worked all the way up to vice president. And in 2013, another Y legend, Cal Johnson, retired after 25 years here, and I was fortunate enough to become the CEO back in 2013, and been doing that almost 10 years.
And that's great. And we're going to give Pritchett a chance to maybe make a comment or talk at the end. We're going to ask him just to take notes, be the note taker, because it's all about Mark and making Mark better. A little background for everybody watching on Mark. Mark and I have had a long relationship, close to 20-year career in education. Our kids are the same age. We knew each other in the community. And so when I had an opening 7 years ago, he was at the top of my list and brought him into the Y. And again, it's just been it was a great addition to our team, and we're proud of him furthering his Y career. So Rich, let's start with you. One piece of advice for a new CEO, what would you say to Mark? I'm going to say Pritchett, and then it's Mark Johnson. So I'm going to call Mark Pritchett. I'm going to call him Pritchett. But what would you give advice to Pritchett?
Yeah, so I think something that I've learned over my years is take a good 90 days just to listen. Try not to do a whole lot of change in those 90 days. And I had a Y legend tell me one time that, he said, if you come in and you make a quick change on the wheel, he said, that's a jerk. He said, so don't come in and be a quick jerk. And so come in and truly listen for 90 days, getting to talk to the community, talk to the staff, talk to the volunteers, take some time to really truly learn about that why, and about truly getting the feedback from everybody, because it's very difficult for us to plot a course if we truly don't know what the data and the information is. And so I think my first nugget of, and I've had other CEOs ask me, new CEOs, hey, can you give me some wisdom? And I've always said, I can tell you 1,000 ways not to do it. But if I had to give you one, certainly mine would be really take those 90 days and listen and get as much data as you can. And after that, go ahead and plot your 18-month plan and projects and all of that. But really take that first 90 just to listen and maybe make some easy small wins or some things that you've got high risk stuff that you've got to deal with. But beyond that, take time to learn that culture and listen.
Yeah, let's hope there's not a big decision you got to make early. Let's hope that there's a good 90 days.
That's right.
Listen first, act second is what somebody told me. What about you, Mark Johnson? What's your first advice for Pritchett?
Well, we're 1 point in, and Rich already took mine. So so that I'm going to say just a short piece of what I'd say, and I'll just go to my second one at that point. But I had a mentor once tell me, don't be in a hurry to show how valuable you are. Be in a hurry to show everyone else there how valuable they are. And so really invest in those relationships and in those people, because when you're getting a new put yourself in the shoes of the people that are getting a new leader. And if they feel heard and they feel valued, then the rest of your time is going to go better. Whereas if they feel like you're busy trying to show them how smart or valuable you are, you're going to have to get around that at some point. So, and this is tied to it. Rich actually said the word, but I think your number one job as a CEO is the culture of your why. You know, hopefully when you're talking about membership or marketing or something else, you're not the smartest person in the room. Hopefully you've got people that you learned and you trust them, but the culture of that group, because people are so different, becomes vitally important. You don't want to spend your time dealing with bad relationships and people who can't get along and those things. You want to spend your time helping make your why better. And so really spending time, and culture is one of those things, it's art more than it's science, but knowing what you want your why to feel like and how you want people to treat each other and saying that out loud is really important. When I first came here in 2013, I spent a year going to all the branches and asking them what they wanted from what was a corporate office at the time. And we made a top 10 list of, this is who we will be for you. And I put it on the wall when you walked in the Aero offices. And it was basically our promises to the branches about what we would be. And we hired and fired based on that list. When we brought a candidate in and we said, this is what we're hiring, you're going to have to function this way to fit this culture. And it was very beneficial. So I think that's one thing you can do early is listen, write down who you want to be and what you want your key team, how you want them to function with your staff, and put it out there and say, this is who we're going to be, and then follow the rules.
Hey,
something else I saw, Mark, one.
Not me, and you're speaking to me now, Johnson. I need to take that note right there.
I'll send you our list.
Good. Rich, what were you saying?
Something I would add to that too is something we've tried and we've done a couple times, and actually I stole it from somebody else, but is to take the employee handbook, hand it back to everybody and say, hey, look, is there anything you'd like to red ink in this, or you'd like to add, subtract, whatever, and let them red ink and go through. And then with your senior team or your team going back through, looking at those things that people edited and say, okay, because that also had something to do with their culture too, is, you know, some of the things they were held accountable to and for. And so the why that I came in here, the culture was, had become toxic over time. And so we had to do some of those things in that first 90 days.
And Mark, and we just redid our handbook. The State Alliance and the Hub will rewrite it for you. You hand them your handbook and give them the notes that you want changed, and they've got a retired or they've got a resource that they'll redo it for you, so you don't have to do all that work. And so that'll save you time, at least, and walk through that process. And so Mark Johnson, coming up, what else? What's another thought for you, I guess, and then for Pritch?
So my second one that I look back on is tell the truth. And now that might feel like a very elementary thing to say, but when you're the CEO, you have a lot of information that you're the keeper of. And it is very tempting to take what you know the exact truth is, and maybe with your board or with your staff, because you're the only one who really owns that information, to share it in a way that makes you look good, that makes the why look better than it is, or and especially with your board, just complete transparency about the issues that you have, exactly what's going on. The last thing you want to happen in your early career as a CEO is for one of your board members or one of your staff to feel like you didn't really give them the actual. Now, there's things you can't talk about, right? I mean, I realize HR, but like I tell my kids, run screaming and yelling with your hair on fire to tell the truth. Just get it out there, talk to your board transparently. Here's the issues I see. We might not have success in this for the next period of time because it's going to take time to get to your Don't just tell people what they want to hear or things that make you look like you're doing a great job. You'd be much better off, especially early, just to call it exactly what it is, and then work from there. People will trust you if you tell them the truth.
Good wisdom.
So, and I guess to tie Rich's comment in that last comment, would you give advice to Pritchett to listen for 90 days and then share the truth? Don't, in week 3, spit out to your board, hey, I'm seeing this. I mean, I would listen for 90 days and then go, hey, here's what I've seen and heard, and this is the truth. Is that good? Would that be good advice?
100%. Because
Yeah, and I think too, Cam, it's really important that those that, and back to Mark's point too, is taking that 90-day information, and those that you went to and talked to about, asking them those questions after the 90 days, go back to them and have those candid conversations. Hey, this is actually what I have found, this is, and do some follow-up with them. And that at that time comes the, hey, here's the facts. This is truly what we've got and what we're dealing with. And people love honesty. They truly do. The board wants honesty, and it's so easy to share. It's so easy to share good news, but a good board will listen to bad news as well too. And they truly want the honesty part. Another thing I have that I've put on my list is, if possible, find a good mentor in operations and then also a mentor in finance. So for me, my direct mentor is Dan Pyle out of Birmingham, the CEO of Birmingham, and my financial is Jim Miller, who was the CFO of YUSA, and both of them, I won't say which one, but one of them does surgery with a scalpel when they're working with me, and the other one does surgery with a spoon. It really hurts. I won't say which one, but I can call them if there's a switch or a knob that I have not seen before, and I'm getting ready to push that knob or pull that switch. I can call them and go, hey, I'm getting ready to push this button. Can you tell me what happens when I push it? And they give me that data. So my advice would be to find a mentor in each, or several in each, actually. So,
Mark Johnson, who's your mentor, and add to it a little bit the importance of that person in your life.
Sure. I have a few. I mentioned Steve Jester, and he's my mentor he was the CEO there for 50 years in the same job. So like he had that ingrained in the community and relationship thing that was hard to replace. And then Cal Johnson and Journey Johnson, and there's no relation to any of them, but both of those guys are what I love is most of the time they tell me exactly what I probably already knew, and I was making it super complex, and they just give you the simple, well, you need to do this, and you're like, I knew that. I knew that. So they just having people that calm you down, because when you're new in a job, you think of all the bad things that could happen if this doesn't go. And when you don't really have the history and you just feel like you're trying to prove something, and having people that can just calm you down. And Mark, I mean, you've got one of the mentors that people talk up and down the East Coast about. You've had, now you've had to work for him, so you might feel differently about Cam than. But when that relationship is different, that it almost becomes even more valuable, because you can go back as peers, and but that he's going to give you really good advice. So.
And Mark, if I can add to that too, something that you made a point with, that is that sometimes when we're in low altitude and we're in the weeds of things, our mentor is seeing it from a high altitude and can truly go, hey, you've got the answer. You're right. You've got the answer. You're just so low altitude, you're not seeing it, and so high altitude, they're able to truly see what we got going on. So, and a set of outside eyes is extremely valuable. So
to blend y'all's two comments, Mark, one of the things I've always tried to do are find mentors as board members. I like to recruit people who are the tops like the CEOs. They know what it's like to be number one and be the boss. And so I've occasionally found those board members that I could sit with and say, hey, I'm struggling with this, give me some advice. And so I've been fortunate in my career to have some board members and ex-board members that have stayed as mentors, several that that you know with. So,
and Cam, that would actually have been my third, was talking about your board, because when you're at a branch level, you use your board differently than you do as the CEO. And having people on your board that you build relationships with and that have had big jobs. My old CEO used to say, you don't want middle managers on your corporate board. Like you need people that have been through these tough experiences. And he used to say, you need people that make more money than you too, because they're going to value what you're worth.
That's a good nugget.
Yeah.
Retired CEO, and he said, put people on your executive committee that when they look at your pay, go, how the hell does he survive on that?
That's sneaky advice. I probably should not have shared that in this particular.
But I think that's cruel. So, Rich, hearing the importance of board, what's a good rule for a board meeting? What's some advice for Mark in conducting a board meeting?
Keep everything high altitude. And a lot of that has to do, if you find it truly you're looking for the right board members, if you get the right board around the table, that board will stay high altitude. We had, when I first came here, and I've had another Y as well, that, the board members that are concerned about the thickness of the yoga mat versus feeding the community, right? And the two spans from that. So keeping the board high altitude, and then also truly, again, working with that board, finding also, I got a question for you, Mark and Cam. What do you guys think that sweet spot number for board members is? How many board members is your sweet spot on the corporate board?
Well, I'm going to answer, because then I'm going to give Mark a chance to kind of ask us some questions. But
yep.
I've used to say at my corporate level, I wanted that 25 to 30. I needed to be diverse and a lot of people, and I didn't want to overlook anybody. It's much easier to manage when it gets a little smaller, when you're down at 20 and 18. I just worry when you get below, if you're getting in that 12 range, for me, I worry that I'm missing some talent. So, but it's really about board engagement, and how do you, if you've got a lot, can you engage them all? And it takes a lot of time if you want to be good at it. That's another one it's an art and a science. It takes a lot of work to do it. What are y'all's thoughts? Big or small? Like, how many is your board, Mark Johnson? Your corporate board?
I have 15 to 22 as my at-large, and then 2 from each branch. And so but we normally run around 18 or 19 because you get the branch reps, and it gets you up into the low 20s.
So our sweet spot's 15 to 18 is what we're trying.
But we're like Mark Johnson. I probably have I think 18, and then I've got 4 branch reps that get me into. So Mark, you've heard from us for about 20 minutes. What other question do you have, or just comment that you want to make?
Well, certainly, Rich and Mark, thank you for taking some time to share with me this morning. I feel, again, welcome to a community, great advice. How has the pandemic really affected your change of leadership? What's one of those things that none of us knew that was going to happen, but when it happened, what's the one thing that you carry out of the pandemic that has really affected or changed the way that you lead going forward?
I can jump in on that. First, I called my mentors and they said, we got nothing. We have no idea. This is not like anything we ever. And I was like, get going. So Cal was like,
scratch point number 2.
So I think for me, it has been learning the new world of flexibility with your staff. I mean, I was on the tail end, and all my mentors were you get to work at 7, you leave it whenever you're done, but it better be after 5. And now working with a younger, very talented staff, that retention of those staff and keeping that organizational knowledge that you have means flexibility. If they need, if I know branch staff, there's a line there where you can't. Not all staff can work from home 2 days a week if they want to, but some can. And at a really high talent level, if that's something that if that's a give that I give and they get their job done and they do a really good job, I've got to be willing to see things a little differently than my old school, you're at your desk from 9 to 5 and dress code and all of those things. That those are things that you kind of have to be able to step back a little and go, what's really important to them that probably isn't a big deal to us, but how do I keep talent because I can work with each person in a way that makes them feel cared for. And it's not always money. It's normally the other things, vacation and such.
Mhm.
What about you, Rich?
Yeah, so we're and Cam has heard this 1,000 times now. We're a little unique here in the fact that our YMCA never closed. We were the only Y in the country that we know of that didn't close during COVID. But one thing we did deal with is the fear of COVID through our staff, through our members and others. And so working with, and just like Mark said, working with the staff and the teams just to support them, we tried weekly to do some things for the staff, whether it was gift cards to, for groceries and other things, but it really made us change. Not that we weren't staff focused before, we always have been, but it really came home to us that, hey, we have got to make sure that we're embracing our staff and really helping them grasp the day-to-day changes that were coming. The changes were so fast. And things from, and we had, of course, we have the hospital coming in and auditing us and helping us with, our cleaning and everything like that. But, everything that things were changing daily about the, different things that we had to go through and the hoops that we had to go through. So I think it taught us all, and I think, of course, this is cliche, but it taught us if we weren't innovative, it made us that way.
Mhm.
And even the YMCA's that were maintainers had to learn how to innovate. So,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Good.
Can I just add too, because it relates to that, we talked, our CEOs in our state and really even now talked way more during COVID. And
Oh, yeah.
Zoom helped that. I didn't know what Zoom was before COVID, but like that has continued. And I think that's been a beautiful thing, just being able on a bi-weekly or monthly basis, just to talk to a group of people about what you're dealing with. You are part of a fraternity now, or a group of people that care about each other and have similar experiences. And so use it. I mean, get in there and learn from it.
Yeah, and that's a great point, because our alliance was meeting, once a quarter in person, and then all of a sudden now, or we make a phone call every now and then, but now truly we have once a month, we've got a Zoom call. You're right, pandemic brought all of us closer in that way too.
Yeah. The North Carolina group, Mark, that's a close group. Prioritize those calls, prioritize the CEO retreat in May when we go away, because that's great. And then prioritize next October when you come to the summit.
Sure.
Come back.
Absolutely. I would be remiss if I didn't say how much I appreciate Cam's mentorship. He had mentioned that we'd been friends and worked on some projects in the community prior to coming to the YMCA. If you'd asked me 20 years ago, would you plan on working for the YMCA? It was not on my radar, but I believe God ran us all together, and Cam is a fantastic leader. I do plan on making those monthly or weekly phone calls and getting that wisdom, because I know he's got a lot of it. And so thank you for, again, sharing with me. Rich, I'm looking, when I look at your screen, I see all those notes behind you.
Yeah.
It reminds me of being in Cam's office. One of the things I was going to ask was, is that your plan? Is that how you work weekly and monthly and on
So
those?
I am actually sharing a conference room and office right now with Norm Joyner, who is my COO, and that is his handiwork behind me. He
Mhm.
loves sticky notes. I like apps, technology. He likes sticky notes. So we've actually got sticky notes everywhere.
Holy cow.
Yeah, but Norm's got his wisdom all over the walls.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Well, I think how CEOs and how as leaders we remain focused maybe have to be just another call, because that's a challenge, because schedule something, the world goes sideways, like that's tell the Lord your plans, he laughs at you. So when you go, hey, I'm gonna have a planning day, that's the day something goes sideways with a pool pump or that you got to fix. Mark, you're a great leader. I'm really proud of you. Keep on speed dial the Mark Johnsons, Rich Gallagher's, the Norm Joiners, your peer group, great male and female leaders around you. Trust in them, share with them. Don't keep it to yourself.
Sure.
And anybody watching and listening, I hope that you aspire to be the best leader possible and that you put great people around you and learn. And if you want to talk to Mark or me or any of these guys, let me know and I'll connect you if you want to learn more about what they shared. But just remember, subscribe to the channel, look for the next one, and always lead with love. Hey guys, thanks so much.
Thank you.